Well, hello everyone. It is Friday, the 10th of March, 2023. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this is your Friday Status Chat. Now, we're a little ahead of schedule today because we ran behind schedule when the lightning and, well, not the lightning, but the windstorms were coming through and shaking all the trees and making all the lights blink. And of course, I want to say thank you to all the people who worked the lines and got the power back on for those thousands of people in the Middle Tennessee area that lost power for some up to a couple of days. I know they're glad to have that power back, so we want to thank them for that. Do have your numbers for this week, and we'll have a fairly short talk today, but I think it's information you need to have, so let's get with it. If you like this content, please go to calldale2sell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, here we are in the middle segment, and of course we always have to do those two things. We have two little inserts we always have to do, but let's look at this right here. Here what we have produced by Benchmark Realtor, by our central chief, who's put this out, looked at some numbers, and thought it might be good for us to remind you who is the #1 highest productivity per agent of the 6 largest brokers in the area. Benchmark, with its 1,453 agents. That's a lot of people that we can network amongst each other with, but it also shows that we outpace Parks, Village, Crye-Leike, Reliant, EXP, Keller Williams. And there are the numbers right there. I think you can see, yes, it's not cut off, so we should be able to see. Let me roll that up just a tad. Well, we made it a little bit smaller because it keeps wanting to stick full screen. So there we can see it down here. Property types, all property types, property statuses, all properties, all lot listing, all lot sizes, all properties, data range from January 1st to 12th of 2022. So we're taking a full year there. Published February 2023, copyright Trend Graphics. And that is not something that's internal to us. It is what it is. Now let's look at the other news that we have this week. You know, I've talked a little bit about what we might expect in terms of interest rates on mortgages. And it's been up and it's been down, but mostly it's been up. We've had a couple little divots that we've looked at in past episodes. And on that, right at the bottom, I told you that my personal feeling, which is just an opinion, my personal feeling was we pretty well much hit the bottom and we were likely to come out of that because there's only so long that we can hold out those particular type of bonds for mortgage-backed securities, hold those out, and do that in such a way that they can compete against other bonds, because there is risk in mortgage bonds. And we see this week, we saw that the 2-year Treasury note, that's a short-term note, has come above 5%. So that is going to put pressure on the competing bonds to go up a little bit in how they work, simply because government bonds are generally considered zero risk. So we're competing with a bond or mortgage security that has some inherent risk to it as we go into this economic period. And we have mortgages versus the T-bills, the treasuries. When treasuries are considered zero risk, they pay less, but they're also not risky. So they're going to put a little pressure. And then we also have this right here. Let's switch that screen over. This is a story from CNBC, and I always like to give you the full credit on that. Let's roll the commercials and the junk off. It is from the Federal Reserve. In just a few minutes this week, Powell changed everything on the market's view of interest rates. Now, interest rates from those who are buying and selling those things, well, they're emotional people too, and they're trying to always guess the market as well. And so we always kind of look to what Chairman Powell has to say. And unfortunately, if Chairman Powell likes to give us a little heads up, sometimes our markets don't fluctuate so much on increase. They may not fluctuate so much on the inflation rates. They may not fluctuate depending on how jittery the market is, but on average, on a daily rate, they do bounce around. Weekly rates show a little less of that, and they look a little bit more steady. Well, here what we've got to say, this is published Thursday, March 9th, 2023, by Mr. Jeff Cox of CNBC, and here are his points. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell set a new paradigm or paradigm, if you're far enough up in the hollows of Tennessee, for how the central bank views its policy path. One apparently will see even higher interest rates for longer periods of time. I think that's probably going to bump your prospective rates up a little bit. I think rates are going to come up, and of course it's coming into the green season when houses do sell a little bit better because they're green and pretty and warm, and we can get out. It tends to be when most real estate sold is during the warm months and not so much during winter. So he says that, and he's keying us into that he's not going to lower anything in the near future. So that may cause some of the people who issue those mortgage-backed securities to have to take it a little different try. Markets now strongly expect a half-point increase in March and the peak or terminal rate to hit close to 5.75. And that is the target rate. And we typically run a couple points above target rate before the Fed finishes. So what does that really mean? Well, if you remember, back in the day, we were doing 3/4 steps, and people weren't liking that too much. That was quite a bit to jerk the steering wheel right or left. And then we had several in a row, and then he started to try to get us all calm and everything around January, and started going to a half and then to a quarter. Well, this is saying here, a lot of people expect it to go back up a half point. So it's actually increasing the rates faster than we were the previous increase, if I'm not terribly mistaken. And I'm human, I might make a mistake. And it also says what changed was the January inflation data. Now remember, if you also watch previous status chats, you know that they changed the definition of what inflation was how it was being measured from a 2-year period to a single-year period. And if we bring that single year a more closer date when the inflation was already hit, then it's likely to assume that it's actually going to show inflation smaller, because we're taking our index number, not the actual year's data, but the index number, where we're doing year-over-year change in the index, not necessarily in the individual items. We see that it might be a way to have made the inflation rate look better, and yet it really didn't do much for us. So that might be a little something that, well, if we can't shade the numbers, we'll have to do something else. So it doesn't look like inflation's truly slowing down much. I know I was at my McDonald's the other day before church getting my biscuit to go, so I would be on point, on focus, and the old blood sugar would be up. And my dollar biscuit, I don't know if you notice this, two biscuits would be $2.20 not long ago, are now almost $4. So that's pretty close to 100% inflation if you do the biscuit index. And I don't know how valid that is that we look at that, but yet that's what it is. Now we can go ahead and look a little bit further down and look at the body of this, but it pretty well much just hits those main points. It's just the fact that turning all that extra money loose, as they've done, has caused inflation. We had back in, I don't know if you remember back in Obama's years, how we got the low inflation rate was that we simply doubled the national debt in one administration, and that shocked the economy. And when that shocked the economy, it kind of stalled and sputtered and stalled a little bit. So the response was, we need to heat up the economy. Let's lower the cost of money. And that's the prime in all of that beautiful nature, the T-bills, the prime, the whole 9 yards. That's to get people, money is cheap, to invest it in jobs and things and all kind of wonderful stuff, buildings and whatnot. And we just never brought it back up. And now we've got the economy going great guns for a period during an administration or so. And now that we started raising the volume of money floating around, we instantly started to devalue the dollar, and inflation jumped up. So what's the response? To raise the interest rates back up. Now I think they will eventually settle out to somewhere around the 8s, but I could be wrong. They may go past that, but I would expect them to before it's all over, I would expect interest rates on 30-year mortgages to be close to 8 percentage points. I kind of thought it might happen by December of last year, but we stalled out. We had enough demand destruction to stop the mortgages being issued. People kind of panicked a little bit, and they wanted to undercut the next person who offered mortgages, and the next person. So we actually brought our rates down. Well, you can only shave an orange so thin before you're out of the white and into the pure orange of it. And now we have to bring those back up because it's not really sustainable for the long term. So I think that's where we are. So anyway, let's wrap this particular show up and move forward. But before we do that, I just want to say, look, you have to determine what is right for you when you're willing to buy, when you need to move to buy. If you believe that inflation is going to continue to go up, and if you believe the rates are going to go up, and you know you have to have a place to live, then it might be a good time, since we're coming on green season and we have better inventory out there available, larger numbers of inventory out there, now's the time you might want to move, because you might look back at this and go, man, I sure wish I could have locked in at the 7s. Well, just like you're looking back and say, man, I wish I could have locked in at the 6s, and I could have locked in at the 5s, or I could have locked in at the 3s. Those are opportunities gone. What you have before you is your own best guess of what the future holds. Do you really believe it's going to get better or worse? Do you think housing is going to get dramatically cheaper? And in what condition will your personal economy be when that happens, if that happens? So there we are. Anyway, let's switch it over and finish this show up. Hello, I'm Dale Delbert of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, Call Dale to Sell. That's 1 L and Dale, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Well, we know today is Friday, and we know it is the 10th of March 2023, and we know we got income tax coming, so I would get a start on that, because that's like the old book says, if you got to do something you don't want to do, like eat a frog, go ahead and eat the frog first and get that out of the way, so at least you don't dread eating that frog. So get your taxes done. I need to take some of my own advice. I've been started, but I'm not finished quite yet. All right, so last week we had, which was 7 days prior, we had 15,707 in the opportunities. That was, you can think of those as the inventory. That includes the coming soon, and that was down over the previous period. We had 3826 in the under contracts still showing. Those are the ones we're holding on to, but we've got a contract on it. We're still going to maybe take backups on that particular property. It decreased as well, and the rate between those two also decreased from 25 to 24%. This week, 3/10 of 2023, we had 15,819 in the opportunities. That actually went up a little bit, and we had 3876 in the under contract still showing. They also went up just a tad, and the ratio between those increased to 25%. So what do those numbers mean? I give you those 3 numbers. They don't mean a whole lot, but they give us a little bit of an idea of the first one, what's actually out there available to buy or coming to buy. And then we have the next one is the under contracts. They kind of give us an indication of, are we having a nervousness perhaps that we're still taking backup offers on? It's not sold. We think it's sold, but we're still taking backup orders in case something falls through, as we start to see more inspection contingencies return, and we're starting to see more financial contingencies return. Then we might begin to start to think, well, if any of those 2 things were to fail, then I want to have something else I can sell. I've got somebody already on deck, so to speak, ready to swing at the ball. So that gives us a little indication. And the ratio between those is just a kind of a relative term. What percentage of what's available is it that are technically thought to be sold? They've got a contract on it, but they haven't closed yet, and it could fall apart. So that's what the value of those 2 numbers are. So that's it. I think it's time to start really getting on board with getting something going, simply because Powell has indicated rates will probably go up. He's going to raise the target rates, and although the mortgage market is not directly pinned to the target rate, it is influenced by it, if nothing else, from the threat of the T-bills, the zero risk bill, the bonds coming up below it, being, quote, a safe haven to put your money. It's just a guarantee, almost like a minimum amount, that you will lose your money, because you still, by and large, certainly in our area, you're still gaining in home value after you purchase, for the most part. And so our gains outpace the safety that you might have if you were to try to put it in other types of investment. And you got to have a place to live. Maybe this is that year that you downsize. Maybe this is the year that you go ahead and spring for that lake lot or that lake home, so that when you're ready to finally shut her down and go fishing, that you can sell off the other home. So there we are. I hope this has been a good show for you. I always try to tell you the truth. I don't try to sugarcoat it or go all real estatery on you and tell you that the sky is all lemon drops and gumballs. It's not. We live in an economy just like everybody else does. But go ahead and call me. Call me on the phone. If I don't answer, leave a message. You've got my emails. You see all the stuff that always triggers down below us. You have lots of ways to get in touch with me. And because we get spammed so much, try more than one channel just to make sure that we got you. Because I will talk to you. I will call you back. We'll see what's going on. We'll get you organized. Appreciate you. Have a good weekend.